Really, what is there left for The Miz to do? I mean, he's not going to win another championship. He's not going to win another Intercontinental title because it seems to me like if you win the championship once and you get over and you get millions of dollars for WWE and you're getting numbers, then you're going to have a second or third reign as champion. Not everybody is going to be a John Cena. But if you can't produce and you have one championship reign, you're never going to be WWE champion no more. It all comes down to those zeros that you're putting at the end of checks for WWE, and The Miz obviously couldn't do that. He could do it in the way of getting over in a promo and getting on our nerves because he always found a way of getting on my nerves. Either as a tag team wrestler or a singles wrestler, he always found a way of getting on my nerves. Like Miz TV gets on my nerves every single week. The guest could be AJ Styles, it could be Team PCB, it could be Team Bad, it could be someone completely stupid who we haven't seen for 15 years. It could be R-Truth and Goldust at this point, and it would just get on my nerves because of what The Miz says in promos, how he tries to put himself over. He always has the shit beat out of him by the end of the Miz TV segment. It's just pointless. It's not really pushing anybody. The only person it's pushed recently is AJ Styles, and he doesn't need The Miz. He doesn't need to be in these segments. He doesn't need to be wrestling The Miz to be over because we know AJ Styles' reputation. If we've watched TNA wrestling for years, we know AJ Styles has wrestled every big name in the world. He's never given credit for it by WWE because it didn't happen in WWE. If the matches with Kurt Angle and Sting would have happened in a WWE ring, AJ Styles would ultimately be a bigger name than what he is now. Trying to rebuild AJ Styles and rehype AJ Styles is probably not going to work as Y2AJ is running roughshod with the tag team division now. I'm not buying into that because AJ Styles is a bigger legend than he's ever given credit for. If you've seen the matches with Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Kurt Angle, Booker T, I mean, they were great matches, especially the matches with Kurt Angle in TNA Wrestling, and the crying shame is he'll never be given credit for that, and the best thing they have for him is to be on Miz TV in WWE. How is The Miz going to make AJ Styles into a bigger name than he already is? Somebody explain that to me. And how is The Miz someone who is over more than what John Morrison could be in 2016? If Morrison were in WWE, let me say this, if I can get away with saying it, if Morrison were still in WWE in 2016, which I have no idea where he is, I think he's still wrestling for independent wrestling companies, which is something that Morrison doesn't need to be doing. He doesn't need to be trying to reestablish his name. The Palace of Wisdom should not have to be doing what it's doing, because if John Morrison were still with WWE, if I can get away with saying this, he would probably be WWE champion probably 4 or 5 times by now in his career, and he probably would be making a bigger name for himself at the expense of people like AJ Styles, because AJ Styles versus John Morrison, or John Morrison versus someone like Sheamus, I mean, those matches were matches that would have been awesome if they would have happened in WWE. It's just a crying shame that Morrison never got the chance to be over more than The Miz. Someone explain to me what The Miz is doing that John Morrison wasn't. I mean, Morrison would come out and cut just as annoying promos. He would get on our nerves just as much as what The Miz did, regardless if he came out with Melina as his manager and valet. We all know, of course, what happened with Morrison and Melina and how unprofessional on times they were. WWE executives believed they were too close together and they were too emotionally connected with one another, so they separated them and had them go their separate ways. Melina in the Divas division going on to win Divas championships, and John Morrison going on to win virtually every major singles championship with the exception of the WWE title, which is why I really appreciated what they did with Morrison and Miz and John Cena, putting them in a cage match in the fallout of WrestleMania 27, and that's where you should have put John Morrison over. But I know a lot of wrestling fans were really pissed off over how Miz always found a way to escape and get over more than what John Morrison did, either in their feud or in singles competition in the way of winning singles championships, because The Miz has won over 12 championships. That just came to me. 12 championships The Miz has won in his career, including WWE titles, U.S. titles, Intercontinental titles. Who will ever forget the 1,000th episode of Raw back in 2013, the summer of that year, The Miz winning the only championship that eluded him in his career, the WWE Intercontinental Championship, winning that championship and holding it for a number of times throughout his career, and a long period of time, the very first time that he held that Intercontinental title. What a way to remember the 1,000th edition of Raw, by winning the only championship that it eluded you. We all know that Daniel Bryan winning the Intercontinental title, of course, was credited to The Miz. The Miz, of course, being a huge influence in the success of Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan finally winning that one title that eluded him his entire career, winning every major singles championship. Really depressed over Daniel Bryan's retirement. We'll never get over that. The Miz claims that he made Daniel Bryan famous. Somewhat he did, and he made a lot of people famous from pushing them. I understand the psychology of that. But really, The Miz to me is just this put-over wrestler. For instance, this segment with The Rock, when The Rock returned to Miami for the first time in 2 years. The Rock had been on Monday Night Raw 2-3 years, whatever the time frame was since The Rock was last seen on Raw. Of course, the last time before now, of course, was with Rusev and Lana, and that unforgettable promo where The Rock got sexual with Lana, and then he brought it up again. But when The Rock arrived in Miami a couple of weeks ago on Raw to announce that he was going to WrestleMania 32 and we were going to see him in the ring or doing something at WrestleMania, The Miz was the first wrestler to confront The Rock, and The Rock just looks at The Miz and says, "Park The Rock's truck," and he throws the keys of the truck at The Miz, and we don't see The Miz anymore that night. I think he came out and wrestled one match that was probably 5 minutes that nobody really noticed. But really, I think The Miz really needs something now to really be noticed more than what he is. But I mean, this is just an example of how they have nothing creative for The Miz. And as long as there are wrestlers like AJ Styles in the WWE and Sin Cara who is winning matches over someone like The Miz, as long as there are wrestlers like AJ Styles and Sin Cara and upcoming wrestlers like Apollo Crews on NXT who is someone who you really got to pay attention to, because Apollo Crews is going to make an impact in WWE. He's just waiting for that opportunity. So is Samoa Joe. So you've got Samoa Joe, Apollo Crews, and you got people like Sin Cara and Alberto Del Rio all the time. So as long as there are people like that, The Miz is not going to be over, because like I said, it's not 2004 anymore, and The Miz is anything but relevant. The people who are relevant in WWE now are obviously AJ Styles, but with the track record of how WWE treated TNA alumni in the past, like Marcus Corvan, we all remember that, how the Fallen Angel Christopher Daniels was supposed to sign with WWE but never got that opportunity. Caval's another wrestler who came in with so much promise. Of course, Low-Key, we all know him from wrestling on the independent level. With how WWE have treated independent and TNA wrestlers in the past, we really don't have a whole lot of hope for AJ Styles, but I'm hoping that AJ Styles will amount to something before it's all said and done. So as long as you have wrestlers like AJ Styles, or at least how it seems right now, someone like The Miz is going to be anything but relevant, and it's going to be a long time before we see The Miz back in the main event, because as I said, The Miz obviously couldn't produce those 6 zeros at the end of a number for WWE on the check at the end of the day, when you have someone like John Cena and Randy Orton who never fail to produce. And it's beyond me why Randy Orton has not returned to WWE. Obviously, the extent of his injury is far more severe than what WWE are giving credit for or letting us know about. And I'm hoping that we're going to be seeing Randy Orton returning for WrestleMania 32, given the number of wrestlers who are on the DL, with the only return that we saw recently being Sin Cara. Really appreciate the Lucha Dragons teaming up and picking up right where they left off in the feud with the New Day, which leads me to believe now The Rock is going to have a bigger role at WrestleMania, because the New Day now seem to have picked things up with the Lucha Dragons, when I believed here a couple of weeks ago that it could have been the New Day facing The Rock and the Usos at WrestleMania. But obviously the New Day were just thrown in there for The Rock and the Usos to do a number on to announce Dwayne Johnson coming to WrestleMania 32 following his tweet, which made news for both wrestling, sports, and the entertainment business, when everybody started commenting on The Rock, tweeting out that he's returning to the ring for the first time in a number of years. I think it's 3 years since The Rock actually wrestled. Yeah, 2013, his last match was against John Cena. So as long as we have people like Sting going in the Hall of Fame, Daniel Bryan retiring, The Rock, The Miz is going to do anything but be relevant here in 2016. So hopefully this will answer a lot of people's questions in relation to how I feel about The Miz. I know that I've shot on The Miz many times before in YouTube videos on my channel, and if you have not subscribed to my channel, you can do so by going to Jonathan Clarke 22 on YouTube and leaving me your comments in the videos once you subscribe to this channel. With over 60,000 channel views and 2,000 views, I know that a lot of people 2,000 videos. I know a lot of people have been asking me for shoot videos on certain wrestlers because they love my opinions about professional wrestlers for whatever reason. Certain athletes like The Miz, certain people like Triple H, you all love to hear me shooting on these wrestlers, and I guess that's why I get so many interview requests on sites like Blog Talk Radio and Mixlr.com, because you guys just can't get enough, seemingly, of my opinions on these wrestlers. And I enjoy putting these videos together for you. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never been really the biggest fan. What this comes from is I've never really been the biggest fan of The Miz, more so than I had been of Shawn Michaels. And a lot of people ask me my opinion on Shawn Michaels and why I'm such a Shawn Michaels fan over Bret Hart. And that's funny because I'm a Canadian. I guess that's what gets a lot of people. So it's either, shoot on this wrestler, or why do you like Shawn Michaels over someone like Bret Hart when you're Canadian at the end of the day. The thing is, Shawn Michaels had more 5-star matches than what Bret Hart ever did, and he had more 5-star matches than what The Miz did. I mean, take for instance, Shawn Michaels and Triple H were the wrestlers who pushed Morrison and Miz in a more promising direction back in 06 or 07. If not for DX, I don't know where